Qatar saying an Iranian ballistic missile has struck Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. That is the largest military installation for the United States in the entire Middle East. And it comes as a new CNN investigation is now looking specifically at the American targets hit so far by Iranian strikes, every single one of them. Tamara Klablawi is out front.
Satellite imagery showing the extent of the damage to U.S. military facilities across Gulf Arab countries is starting to emerge.
Not an airstrike, a full-scale war. And the people running it, on all sides, believe they are winning. That's the part that should scare you. Let me take you back 8 days, because to understand where we are right now, you need to understand one thing clearly. This war did not start because of one event. It started because of a decision that was made years ago, and the people who made it waited patiently for exactly the right moment to execute it. For years, Iran had been enriching uranium, quietly, methodically, in underground facilities buried so deep that conventional bombs couldn't reach them. The international community watched. Diplomats negotiated. Sanctions were imposed. Deals were made and broken. And Iran kept enriching. By late 2025, the intelligence assessments coming out of Washington, Tel Aviv, and London all pointed to the same conclusion. Iran was weeks, not months, not years, weeks away from having enough enriched uranium to build a nuclear weapon. The window to stop them without a nuclear confrontation was closing fast. Trump had given Iran a final diplomatic framework. Iran rejected it. And within weeks of that rejection, on February 28, 2026, the bombs started falling. But here's the first thing nobody tells you. The United States didn't just launch airstrikes. They launched something that had never been done before in the history of warfare. Using an artificial intelligence targeting system, the U.S. military struck 900 targets inside Iran in the first 12 hours. Not over a week, not over a campaign, 12 hours. 900 targets. Iran's Air Force, Iran's Navy, Iran's air defense systems, Iran's command and control infrastructure. All of it, simultaneously, processed and executed at a speed no human military chain of command could have managed. By the time Iranian commanders could even assess what was happening, their country's military was already being dismantled around them. And in those same first 12 hours, the United States struck the compound of Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the man who had led Iran since 1989, the man who had outlasted 4 decades of American sanctions, 3 U.S. presidents who publicly wanted him gone, and multiple assassination attempts by Israeli intelligence. He did not survive the first day of this war. Think about what that means. The ideological head of the Iranian state, the man whose portrait hangs in every government building in Tehran, the figure around whom the entire structure of the Islamic Republic is organized, gone in the first 12 hours. The conventional wisdom was that this would break Iran's will to fight, that without their supreme leader, without their air force, without their navy, the regime would fracture and sue for peace. That did not happen. What happened instead is what Iran called Operation True Promise 4. And what Iran has done in response is something that rewrites everything you thought you knew about asymmetric warfare. In the 8 days since February 28th, Iran has launched 23 separate waves of retaliatory strikes. Not 23 missiles, 23 coordinated military operations against American military bases, American allies, and the cities that power the global economy in the Middle East. They hit Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar. That's America's largest military base in the entire Middle East, the forward headquarters of U.S. Central Command, the base from which much of the bombing campaign against Iran is being coordinated. Iran put missiles into it. They hit Al Dhafra Air Base in the UAE. That's where America's F-35 and F-22 fighter jets are stationed. They hit Ali Al Salem Air Base in Kuwait. They hit Sheikh Issa Air Base in Bahrain. They hit U.S. bases in Erbil in northern Iraq. But Iran didn't stop at military targets. That's what makes this different from every previous conflict in this region. Iran went after the global economy directly. On the first day of the war, Iran launched 137 missiles and 209 drones at the UAE alone. Dubai, Abu Dhabi, cities where hundreds of thousands of Americans live and work. Cities that are the financial backbone of the entire Gulf region. The UAE's own defense ministry confirmed that of the ballistic missiles launched, 13 made it through and fell. Of the drones launched, 44 caused impact. And even the ones that were intercepted, their debris fell on populated areas, causing fires and infrastructure damage across Dubai and Abu Dhabi. At Abu Dhabi's international airport, a person was killed. Dubai's airport was hit. Kuwait's airport was hit. And then Iran launched what its own commanders described as the single biggest missile barrage of the entire war at Doha, Qatar. Journalists on the ground described massive explosions every few minutes, plumes of smoke rising above the high-rise towers of Doha's financial district. Shock waves felt through buildings miles from the impact zones. The barrage lasted over an hour and a half. Qatar's prime minister called it a flagrant violation of sovereignty. And while Qatar was being actively bombed, Iran's foreign minister called the Qatari government on the phone and told them the missiles were directed at American interests, not at Qatar itself. Iran bombed a country and simultaneously called that country to explain the bombing wasn't personal. And then Iran struck the Burj Khalifa, the tallest building in the world, the single most recognizable symbol of the Gulf's transformation into a global financial hub. Iran put a missile into it. That was not an accident. That was a message to every government in the world that hosts American military assets. You are not safe. We can reach you. And then Iran did something that directly hit American military capability in a way no adversary has managed in recent memory. They destroyed a $300 million American military radar system with a single strike. $300 million. One hit, gone. They also struck and decommissioned an American ammunition ship. That's not symbolic. That's attacking the logistics chain that keeps American forces armed and operational. And after all of that, after 23 waves, after Gulf cities bombed, after American bases hit, after a $300 million radar destroyed, Iran's Revolutionary Guard released a public statement. And this is the statement that should make every American pay attention very carefully. They said, and I'm quoting directly, "The most ferocious offensive operation has not yet been executed." After 23 waves, after everything you just heard, they are telling the world that what we've seen so far is the opening act. But there's something even closer to home that I need to tell you about. Because on March 6th, CNN's own intelligence analyst went on air and said that Iranian operatives have been on the ground here in the United States actively plotting attacks on American soil. Not in Qatar, not in Iraq, here, in America. That report aired. It has not been retracted. And the Department of Homeland Security has made no public statement about it. So when someone tells you this war is happening over there and doesn't affect you, understand that Iran's entire strategic doctrine is built around making sure that those who fund and support their enemies feel consequences. And the consequences Iran is preparing may not be limited to the Middle East. Now I need to talk about the thing that separates this war from every other conflict in the modern Middle East: the nuclear dimension. And I'm going to be very precise here because this section deserves precision. The United States and Israel struck 4 of Iran's nuclear facilities during this war. 4. Not 1 as a warning shot. 4. The first is the Minzada compound, a covert underground site northeast of Tehran where Iranian nuclear scientists were actively working on what Israeli intelligence described as a key component for nuclear weapons. The IDF confirmed its destruction. The second is Natanz, Iran's primary uranium enrichment site, the place where Iran was producing the enriched uranium that was bringing them toward nuclear breakout. The IAEA confirmed damage. The third is Isfahan, a nuclear complex handling uranium conversion and fuel production. Independent analysts describe the destruction there as massive. The fourth is the Levisan facility, which houses the administrative arm of Iran's nuclear weapons research program. Now here's the part that no one is talking about loudly enough. When you bomb a nuclear facility, the threat doesn't disappear. The nuclear material inside, the enriched uranium, the radioactive byproducts, the scientific documentation, it doesn't evaporate. It scatters, or it gets moved. And with the IAEA's inspectors unable to access these sites during an active war, the international community has completely lost visibility over what happened to Iran's nuclear stockpile. Where that material is right now, nobody outside of classified intelligence briefings knows. The Center for Strategic and International Studies specifically flagged this as a direct and immediate risk. Nuclear material proliferation is a consequence of striking these facilities. Not a hypothetical. A confirmed gap in global nuclear accountability that exists right now, today. And then on March 4th, a senior Iranian official made a public statement that Reuters reported. Iran said it will target Israel's nuclear facility, the Dimona reactor, if the United States and Israel pursue regime change in Tehran. That's Israel's nuclear facility, the one that is never officially acknowledged but is universally understood to be the heart of Israel's undeclared nuclear arsenal. Iran is saying directly, you want to make this a nuclear confrontation? We are prepared to do that. And here's why that threat cannot be dismissed. Russia supplied Iran with S-400 air defense systems and Su-35 fighter jets. China provided Iran with its Beidou-3 satellite navigation system, a GPS alternative that makes Iranian missiles more accurate and significantly harder to jam. The missiles Iran is currently firing in wave after wave are equipped with Chinese guidance technology that makes them more precise than anything Iran could have built domestically. When Iran says it can hit Dimona, they have the technology to attempt it. Which brings us to the part of this story that changes the entire calculus. Because this war is no longer just about 3 countries. Russia has been Iran's primary military technology partner for years. But Russia's stake in this goes deeper than weapons sales. Russia and Iran are co-anchors of the International North-South Transport Corridor, a trade route running from Russia through Iran to India and the Persian Gulf that was specifically designed to bypass Western-controlled shipping lanes. The United States and Israel just struck Iran's most strategically vital port, Bandar Abbas, the gateway for that entire corridor. Russia is watching its primary alternative trade route to the global south get bombed into rubble. China has two problems with what's happening. First, the Belt and Road Initiative, China's trillion-dollar global infrastructure project, runs through Iran. Iranian territory is a critical land bridge in that network, and American bombs are now falling on it. Second, oil. China is the world's largest oil importer. A significant portion of that oil moves through the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow waterway that Iran has explicitly threatened to close. If the Strait of Hormuz closes, China's economy takes a direct hit. Oil prices spike globally, supply chains collapse, and Beijing is watching an American military operation dismantle the infrastructure of one of their key strategic partners, while simultaneously threatening to cut off the energy supply their economy runs on. Vladimir Putin has not made a direct military move yet. China's government has issued diplomatic protests, but analysts tracking their behavior have concluded that both Moscow and Beijing have already transitioned from being diplomatic allies of Iran to being its technological anchors. They are in this war. They just haven't officially declared it. And now we come to the scenario, the one that the most serious military analysts in the world are working through right now. The scenario for the next 72 hours. If Iran follows through on its Dimona threat, if a missile equipped with Chinese guidance technology strikes Israel's nuclear facility, Israel faces a domestic political reality that no Israeli government could survive without responding to with overwhelming force. And the United States faces a decision it has never actually had to make in 80 years of the nuclear age. Do you back a nuclear-armed ally in a nuclear exchange? That question has never been tested, not once, not in any conflict since 1945. If the United States escalates to a ground invasion, which Trump's demand for unconditional surrender, combined with Iran's refusal to surrender, is pushing toward, then every proxy network Iran has built over 40 years activates simultaneously. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Shia militias across Iraq, Houthi forces in Yemen, all at once, against American forces and American allies from the Mediterranean to the Persian Gulf. The United States would be fighting on more fronts simultaneously than at any point since World War II. And if China's leadership looks at this moment, American military resources stretched across the Middle East, American interceptor missiles being depleted faster than factories can replace them, American ammunition stocks being stressed by 23 consecutive waves of Iranian strikes, and decides that the window for a Taiwan operation has never been more favorable, the United States faces a two-front crisis that its current military posture was not designed to handle. The United States Naval Institute published a scenario paper before this war started that described this exact dynamic. China and Russia encouraging Iran to escalate in the Middle East precisely because it ties down American military capacity and creates a strategic opening in the Pacific. Trump has already announced that U.S. defense manufacturers will quadruple weapons production. That is not a peacetime announcement. That is a wartime industrial mobilization signal, the kind of signal that, in previous generations, preceded the full transformation of a country onto a war footing. Here is where we are right now. Day 8. Over 3,000 targets struck inside Iran. Iran's supreme leader dead. 4 nuclear facilities bombed. 23 waves of Iranian retaliation against American bases across the entire Middle East. Gulf cities hit. A $300 million American radar destroyed. An American ammunition ship decommissioned. Iranian operatives reportedly on American soil. Russia and China watching their strategic interests being dismantled in real time. And Iran publicly stating that the most ferocious operation they are capable of has not yet happened. Nobody who started the first two world wars thought they were starting a world war. They thought they were winning a regional conflict. Every major power involved right now, the United States, Israel, Iran, Russia, China, believes it is acting rationally. Every one of them has red lines, and some of those red lines are closer to each other than any of their governments are publicly admitting. The thing about a world war is that it doesn't start with a declaration. It starts with a miscalculation. One strike that goes slightly further than intended. One leader who feels they have no choice left. One alliance that decides the cost of staying out is now higher than the cost of coming in. The next 72 hours are not just news. They are history being made in real time. And now you understand exactly what's at stake. If you want to stay ahead of what happens next, subscribe and hit the bell. Because when the next development breaks, I'll be here breaking down what it actually means. Not just what happened, what it means for you.